Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for coming today to listen to the Buddha's Dharma, to practice our practice. As each of you knows, during the week, I think a lot about what it is that the week is kind of telling me so that I can kind of share it, and we can kind of work through using the Dharma, and then how do I relate it back to our practice. And recently, I moved into a new home. And one of the first things I did when I moved into the house is that we established a compost pile. And this is something that I was very excited by because I really love the idea that just like in the temple, nothing is wasted. Everything is used. And I've really taken a lot of kind of joy and pride and pleasure in creating this refuse pile of all of the cutoffs from the good farm-grown vegetables that my wife and I purchase and enjoy. And this has been a really neat thing for me. And what I realized, though, in the process was that I didn't quite understand or know as much about a compost pile as I probably should have prior to starting the compost pile. And in my enthusiasm, at Goodwill, I found a book on how to basically self-sustain your whole family on 1/4 of an acre, and how to grow everything in a renewable way. And compost was one chapter. I was very excited. I read the chapter yesterday. And in the chapter, it talked about there's 2 different types of compost piles. There's a thermophile pile and a mesophile pile. And so a thermophile means that it gets temperatures above 107 degrees and maintains it because of the way that the pile is situated and maintained, that it kind of has to have a culture to kind of help start it, or you have to be very, very patient for it to kind of build up heat. And you need to start these things in the spring. And then if you do this, it kind of can destroy any pathogen that you put in there if you can create this really hot pile. And you could put meat in there, you can put all these things that will kill weed seeds and diseased crops and stuff because it just gets hot enough. The other type of pile is called a mesopile, and then that's one where it maintains an intermediate level of decomposition and heat. There's more odor that you can smell from them and such, but that tends to be the way that they start. You kind of throw in whatever you have, right? And then over time, it starts to slowly break down, and then you start adding in like leaves and grass and things like this to gradually start giving it what's necessary to create heat in order to turn it from this mesopile to a thermopile. And either way is good. Each one requires a different amount of time that you need to let the piles grow and it matures. So if you're not putting anything really nasty in them, they can mature within 6 months. Sometimes, though, it may take as long as 2 years. If you have the thermophile style, it can take a month to do something really quick. Or it may take longer. And what's interesting is that when you do this, they suggest that you have 3 piles, a central one that you throw everything into, and then as it breaks down and you turn it and it's ready to go, you kind of throw it into 2 other piles and gradually just keep moving it towards a level to where it just becomes dirt, usable dirt. So within this, I'm always thinking of what's our practice. And what I realized was that what Buddhism does is it allows us to create this beautiful compost pile out of our 5 skandhas, our 5 piles, our things that we see, taste, touch, hear, smell, and think about. Right? And that what Buddhism is this amazing process by which we learn that there is nothing truly that needs to be thrown away. But see, this is what a farmer knows. A farmer knows that when you grow crops, the cutoffs, the leftovers of the crop, of your cooking, of all of these things, these are valuable things. That without them, you cannot create the fertilizer necessary to grow next year's crops. Or if you do, boy, it costs you a lot of money to buy fertilizer from somebody else. It's really not an efficient process. And so really good farmers know we don't throw anything away. We reuse everything. Everything has a function and a purpose. And the same as goes in Buddhism. When we start our spiritual path, are very similar to consumers in modern society. We like things in packages with pretty covers, right? And then once we get past those packages, well, now those packages are just garbage, right? And we throw them away, right? We don't need them. We got what was in there. I don't need the package. Screw the package, right? And we don't think about, all right, well, there's a whole process that had to create that package, move that package someplace else. That package has to go somewhere. Maybe it goes into a refuse heap. Maybe it goes into recycling. Who knows? But still, we're just consuming, right? And any cut off vegetables and stuff we have, we're like, oh, well, I'm just going to throw this in the garbage. Okay. Well, that garbage has to go somewhere too. And we don't realize that all of those cast-offs of those vegetables that we cut off could have been used to create a beautiful stock, right? You could put those in water on your stove. If you save up enough of them in your freezer, you can make this beautiful veggie stock, and you could use that to make a whole bunch of other soups as a nice base. Then you can take that leftovers from those cut-offs, the cast-offs that you made this nice, broth with, and then you can put those in your compost pile. And then that helps to kind of like churn and grow and mature, and then you can grow your own vegetables or flowers or whatever it is. So here's this really amazing process that we're kind of cut off from because we've just become consumers. Okay, I buy, I consume, I'm busy, I don't have time for these things. I'm disconnected from the fruits of my labor. So Buddhism is the same way as starting this compost pile, because all of a sudden I realized that all of these things that I was casting off, I'm angry, I'm attached to this person, I eat too much, I sleep too late, I cuss too much. All of these things that I'm like, I'm just going to cast these things away. Whatever. These are bad, nasty. Bleh. I'm going to get rid of them. My self-doubt, my self-loathing, whatever it is, I'm just going to push those away. I'm going to get rid of them and throw those away in the garbage. I need a fancy packaged spirituality that allows me to put all those things in the recycling bin and the garbage and just get rid of them so I can move on. Eat my dinner. Now. But the truth is that all of those things that make up that nice packaged thing had to come from somewhere, and someone had to go through a whole series of processes for you to be able to use them, and so on and so forth. In our practice, what we realize is we cannot cast off these things in the garbage and think that we don't need them, that they're just the bad ends, the end of the carrot, the end of the cucumber, whatever it is. Because we don't realize that these things have a purpose and a function, that it is incredibly important for us not to throw them away, that we need to throw them on the heap and allow them to mature. So when you have a compost pile, you know, and you put all these things in, it has to be a nice blend of you know, cutoffs from your vegetables, as well as yard waste and all of these things, because they all have like a different function to help create an environment. You have certain bacteria that grow in a warm environment, certain bacteria that grow in a humid environment, and they all kind of work symbiotically together. And so we have this pile of refuse of all of our problems, of all of our self-doubt, of all of our anger and greed and lust and ignorance, and all of these things right there. And we're not, in Buddhism, trying to get rid of those things. We're trying to let them mature. We're trying to come into this process with an open mind, like a farmer or a scientist, and realize that everything has a function and a purpose, and I shouldn't throw anything away. It's the fertile ground for me to grow my flowers, to grow my fruit, to grow my vegetables. Now, in the process of making a pile, what's interesting is it can take a long time for the pile to start to mature, and people can get really frustrated. Sometimes it could take a full year to really become useful to you. Actually put it on your garden, because honestly, if you put it on too soon, it'll hurt your garden. It'll hurt your flowers. It won't be good, right? Because it's toxic still. But over time, initially we aerate it, so we're constantly turning it and mixing it together, and it's not all amalgamated yet, right? And this is an important process because it aerates it. It puts an air into all of this decomposing matter. It gets it moving, right? And this is like our initial practice of mindfulness, okay? And in mindfulness, we start by first recognizing these things within ourselves. Oh, this is me mad. Oh, this is me selfish. Oh, this is me hurt. And we observe these things, and our initial reaction is to throw them away and say, no, that's not me. I'm not that. I don't do that. I don't want to do that. But through mindfulness, we're gradually sifting through all of this refuse and tossing it together, right? And seeing over time that as we analyze all of these negative aspects about ourselves, all of our attachments and all these things, that in the end, they're all the same. They're all just attachments. They're all just things that we're holding on to. That none of them are bad. And that if we constantly keep churning it up with the practice of mindfulness, not judging it, not worrying about the smell that's associated with it, but an understanding that if we're patient and if we're constantly mindful and aerating and observing this practice, that it will start to mature. But this takes a long time, right? This is a mesopile, right? This takes a long time. Now, the thermopile is such that it gets so warm that it can kill any pathogen. But it takes time to get to that temperature. It doesn't just start, right? You can't start that pile in the fall. You got to start that pile in the spring and mix in all of the yard refuse and waste, as well as green material and all these things to start to get that heat going. This is also like our practice. When we start chanting Namu, that's the tool, right? That helps to start heating up our practice. Yes, we have all done a good job. We've all been drawn to Buddhism at a different point, using different methods or other spiritualities to create a mindful situation where, oh man, I am so good at recognizing my problems and the problems of others. But in the end, we fall down and fail to transmute those difficulties and those problems into good, usable material to grow from and help others grow from. So when we chant Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, that's the heat, right? That's the thermophile reaction that helps to slowly start to burn up all of this, what we feel as refuse, and turn it into something usable, not just for our garden, but for everyone's garden. So what do we do when we experience mindfulness? Well, we categorize. We're still thinking about it, but how do we go beyond that? How do we take that observation of all of our eccentricities and go beyond? We chant Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. We build the heat of our pile in the center of our 5 skandhas through chanting, through our practice, so that we can better churn up all of those defilements, all of those attachments, all of that refuse, and turn it into good, usable, working, solid, fertilizing matter for our practice and for everybody else's practice. So this is the twofold practice of Shodaigyo, right? Sitting in silent meditation and chanting Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Because it's sitting in the silent meditation that allows us to first start sifting through the pile. It is the pitchfork that turns the pile and flips it over. But chanting Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, that is the biological process by which all of it gets really churning. That allows us to get the heat up enough that it doesn't matter what refuse we put in there, it is consumed by the Lotus Sutra and by our practice and converted into good, usable matter. And this is why we should chant all the time, whenever possible, in your head, out loud, dancing, crying, whatever it is, chant. Not for things, not for yourself, but for others. As a gift. So this is how a compost pile inspired me this week in my practice, and it was interesting. It really came to me yesterday. Tristan and I went and visited Kanjo and Kristen in Buffalo and had dinner with them. And I'm reading this book while everyone's cooking and such, and it just I'm sitting in front of the altar at Kanjo's house, and it just came to me how it was the same. And it reminded me of Nichiren Shonen's Gosho, which says, water too clean harbors no life. And this is us. This is the Lotus Sutra. This is the muck and mire. This is our image. Like, we cannot reach our highest potential without being rooted in the muck and mire of everyday life. You need that fertile material. But the only way that you're going to get beyond the slow process of just gradually, mindfully churning and mixing these things and get to the process that you can actually quickly heat them up and make them usable is Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. So today we'll do Shodaigyo. Today in your silent meditation, I really want to direct you today because the Buddha says, I've been listening to the Pali Canon a lot recently, and the Buddha really talks about that the foundation of mindfulness is following your breath. It's the basic act of following your breath. And when I was following Zen, and I had my own personal satori, it was through following my breath that I achieved it. And then afterwards, I realized I had to throw it away. So, but you got to achieve it before you can throw it away. So here's the breathing method today. It is, again, for those of you who know, the 1-4-2 healing breath. This method that I'm going to give you, do it every day. You know, if you really want to see benefits, do it every day. And do not pick up another practice until you finish this one. Don't. Because there's so much out there that you could say, oh, well, this isn't working. No, you stick with this practice until you get results. That's my suggestion. So the practice is this. You sit upright, either on a chair, seated, or whatever. Joshua, I worry about your back. Ideally, we want to get your coccyx slightly elevated up so that you're sitting at a slight downward inclination when you're sitting cross-legged. That will save spinal problems. You're going to sit up nice and straight. You're going to allow your spine to hold the weight, your shoulders to roll back, and everything to kind of hang so that your whole skeleton is supporting you, not your muscles. If you're leaning forward slightly or to the side, a muscle is having to support you. That's going to cause pain over time. That's why you can't sit long-term in meditation without having a good posture. So once you've done that, you need to link everything together. And we do that by taking the tongue and putting it on the top of the roof of our mouth, just behind our top teeth. Now, ostensibly, in spiritual theory, it's that it links all of those chakras going up. There's a space in between, the crown chakra, the throat chakra, and one of the other chakras. But anyway, so the tongue touches the top, and that connects the two. Physiologically, what it does is it actually dilates your nasal passages so you can breathe better. You have to breathe in and out through your nose in this particular process. If your nose is stuffy, okay, breathe through your mouth. But shoot to breathe through your nose. When you breathe in, you are doing diaphragm breathing. You are literally just allowing your stomach to relax with your tongue on the roof of your mouth, and it fills. Now, it fills quickly. It's not a slow breath in. It's a quick breath in. Then it's a hold. And then after you hold, you breathe out very, very slowly. Physiologically, the idea is this. Get in as much oxygen as you can quickly. Hold the oxygen in so that your body can start disseminating all of the molecules of oxygen around. And breathe out long and slow so that you can push out as much carbon dioxide as possible, making your engine run more efficiently. Also, what this does is it puts you in oxygen deprivation, which is actually important when you're really trying to push meditation. You want to be slightly oxygen deprived. You're not holding your breath till you pass out, but it's just enough to make it an efficient process right on the edge of total efficiency. When you're doing this, you'll breathe in a 1-4-2 multiple. It's about 5,000 years old. It's called the 1-4-2 healing breath, which is this. You breathe in on a 1 count. You hold for a 2 count, or a 4 count, and then you breathe out for a 2 count. It's been suggested that you start with 4. So 4 times 1 is 4, 4 times 4 is 16, 4 times 2 is 8. So I breathe in for 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. I hold for 16 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And then I breathe out for 8 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And start the cycle again. In for 4. If you're pregnant or you have health concerns, do not do this. Do whatever feels comfy to you. If you don't, push yourself. So in the process of doing that, I breathe in for 4. I hold for 16. I breathe out for 8. I do this as a count of 1. I do it again. It's 2. I do it again. It's 3. I do that for a 10 count, and then I stop and breathe normally. Okay? Do not try to do this for an hour. Just do it for 10 sections. That's all you got to do. If you lose track, so Keith, if you're like, was I on 1 or was I on 4? You have to start over. That's the trick. Now, as you progress, you might say, whoa, that's 16 seconds. That's really hard for me to do. That's a long time. Do 12, right? Keep trying to add on a little bit more until you can get to the 4, 16, 8. Now, once you get to 4, 16, 8 on a regular basis, and that's a really good meditation, and you can do it for a set of 10, then do that at the beginning of your meditation for Shraddha. Then do your chanting. And at the end, just breathe normally, nice and relaxed. You don't have to do anything special. After you get really good at the 1-4-2 healing breath cycle at 4, 16, 8, change your multiple. Try 5, 20, and 10. Right? So 5 times 1 is 5, 5 times 4 is 20, 5 times 2 is 10. Try that and see how that works. But here's the rule. Once you change your multiple, you are not allowed to tell me or anybody else what your multiple is. That is your secret. You are not allowed to tell anyone. You cannot boast about it. You cannot be like, yo, I breathe in for 10 seconds and I hold it for 40 seconds and I breathe out for 20 seconds. You know, like that's your practice, right? That keeps it from becoming a game where you're trying to compete with somebody else. It's just your multiple. Great. If you can hold your breath a long time, that's great. If you can't, all right. My other suggestion is if you can, face a white wall or surface, not necessarily right up against it, just something that doesn't have a lot of color, because you're going to be putting yourself into an alpha wave zone in your brain. When you become slightly oxygen deprived and you breathe in a rhythmic manner, you will start to see what look like sort of purple little floating clear amoebas floating in front of you. That's a sign that you're producing alpha waves, which is a really good state for meditation. It's one of the scientific ways that you can express one of the jhanas or one of the meditative states. So look for that. You know, if you don't see it, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. Eventually, like you can start seeing sort of halos around people and such that can change colors and stuff. Don't get attached to any of it. It's all just an illusion. Just focus on your breathing. Okay. So practice that today in Shodaigyo. Do the breathing meditation at the beginning. For the last Joshin, don't count. Do Shikantaza, just sitting, just breathe. Breathe more normal. If you breathe at a very fine. If you breathe super slow, that's fine too. Okay? All right. Right high. Know this place in which we find ourselves now is a dojo, a place of Buddhist training. All Buddhas come to this place and attain perfect enlightenment. All Buddhas come to this place and turn the wheel of the Dharma. All Buddhas come to this place and enter into Nirvana. Onmon Sanki, the three treasures. It is difficult to be born as a human being. I have now realized such a birth. To hear the teaching of the Buddha is difficult. I have now been able to hear it. I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Namu Please place your hands in Hokai Join, Mudra. Joshin-gyo, silent meditation to center and calm the mind and body so that we may chant the Odai Moku. we'll chant the old Daimoku. James, if you would be in charge of inviting everyone to stand and offer incense during the chant. Please place your hands in Gassho. If you have Juju, 3 on the left, 2 on the right, extinguishing our 108 desires with Gassho. Shōshōgyō, chanting of the old Daimoku. Namu myo renge kyo. Namu
place your hands and hold Pai Jolene, cosmic realm. We begin awareness meditation, which is silent meditation to feel the sublime dharma of the old Daimoku and the preciousness of life. Please just do Shikantaza, just sitting and breathe naturally. Today we direct our prayers of merit outwards to those in memoriam of those in sickness and distress. We remember those in sickness and distress. We remember all the victims of terrorism throughout the world, all the victims of fires, winds, floods, and other natural disasters. We remember Frank Hardaway and James Conklin, Martin Hardaway, Louis Stigler, Roman Valentin. We remember the people of Puerto Rico, Stacy Perdue and Lindsay, as well as Anita Cohen, Dan Monheim, Maureen Frame, Christy Kazmarski, Ken Williams, Janet Williams, Richard Weinman, Isako Brainerd, Melissa Bowman, Michael D. Ritchie, Manny Figueroa, and Chabi, as well as Aunt Bonnie and Marjorie Valdez. We remember also those in memoriam. We remember Amy and Maria Valentin, CP and Augustus Kroll, Albert Rivas and Yolanda Rivas, Elaine and Joe Winter, Terry Paquin, Bill Mears Sensei, Harp Sensei, Jack Parker, Kazuko Jordan, Errol Scott, Cheryl Cushman, Aunt Barbara, Wayne, Ronnie Yogetsu Sullivan, Dennis Sullivan, members of the Show family, members of the Thibault family, members of the Kuzmarski family, members of the Benuski family, Michael Maffei, as well as Melinda Williams, members of the Morrissey family, members of the Bigelow family, members of the Kroll and Craning family. We also remember Charles Bull and Helen Lawson, Dr. Peter Bowen, Maria Arajo, Donald Gregory, Tico, Josephine Abad and Fructuoso Abad, Shay, Roca, Ali Usul, Scoop, Ming Chi, Stella Hitchcock, Rex, and the Bee, as well as Janice Goudreau. We respect you deeply. You will all be able to practice the way of bodhisattvas and become Buddhas. May the merits we have accumulated by this offering be distributed among all living beings, and may we and all other living beings attain the enlightenment. Thank you all very much for coming today. For those of you who were not able to be here for our lesson today, our lesson was how our practice allows us to take all of the things that we think about ourselves as dirty and not good, and allows us to turn that on and turn them into useful matter so that we can fertilize our garden and our life with. Hopefully, those of you who were here got to feel the heat of your pile of skandhas raised with the chanting of the Odaimoku. You guys did a really great job. I'm really proud of everyone. Thank you very much. Okay, ladies, put out the candles. We'll take our picture. Please get everything ready for lunch as well. We'll take the picture. And goodbye to everyone at home. Thank you for tuning in. So, you guys want to get you?
Yeah. Oh, sure. Oh, man. Sorry.
He's hyper aware now. He's
Not
slight movement.
So,
He's on. You're completely out of range.
Yeah, it usually goes on the other
that's
side.
not fun. Yeah.
I tried to hand you the rubber mats, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yeah, no, okay, sorry about that.
I would do the home.
Oh, okay, cool. But just